Yep, guys and gals, and also Mark the Smart Trahan is here. Mark, how y'all doing?
Really good, really good. It's a very interesting week in wrestling.
Oh, definitely, to say the least. One of the big topics about this week's in wrestling is what happened on Monday Night Raw. Well, there's two big things to talk about that. One is not only the return of Triple H and seeing him, because that was completely unexpected, but I don't think anybody, Nick, really anticipated or even expected Triple H to turn on Seth Rollins the way he did and help Kevin Owens win the Universal Championship. Nobody saw that coming.
Nobody
It was a
saw
swerve,
it coming.
bro.
Yeah, nobody saw it coming, man. And it was nice to get. It was actually nice to get one of those, for a change.
Vince Russo swerve, bro. I knew it. You knew it. I knew it.
Yeah.
Yep. But so, Mark, what was your reaction to all that?
I didn't watch the live stream. I didn't watch it live, but after.
We also need to remind everybody that the name of the show is Sports Entertainment Tonight, not Higher Thought. Yeah.
Higher Thought with Lex
on this show we
was on earlier today. If unlike Colin Kaepernick, will stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
You heard Tony Romo doesn't want to
Yeah, I'll be careful.
doesn't want to salute the national anthem. You heard he doesn't want to stand up the national anthem. You know why? Because he thinks he'll get injured.
My chest.
My back.
Yeah.
But anyway, when it comes to Kevin Owens winning the Universal Championship this past week on Monday Night Raw, it's definitely stirred up some controversy in more ways than one, ladies and gentlemen. KO's wife took to Instagram this week and posted a reaction video from KO's 8-year-old son to him winning the championship, and ESPN Radio's Amin El Hassan. And you know what, personally, honestly, after reading some of these disgusting comments, I really don't care if I don't get your name right. He responded on Twitter, and he decided it would be a perfect opportunity to take a jab at professional wrestling being just entertainment by responding on Twitter by saying, until someone told him it was scripted. This riled up a lot of fans on the interwebs and responded to Al Hassan by saying that he is autistic in a snarty response. And this was one of the things that really just ticked me off a lot. Al Hassan would said, the wrestler or the kid? First off, that is just completely disrespectful. For one thing. After being informed that KO's 8-year-old son is autistic, El Hassan would take it further by saying, well, that doesn't change anything then. After being most 8-year-olds think wrestling is unscripted. His autism isn't the reason he thinks wrestling is real. The fact that he's 8 is. That is just, on a personal human level, some of the most disgusting, unprofessional, unwarranted comments I have ever heard in my life.
The words of Big Cass and Enzo Amore, he's just a hater.
What do we got here? A couple haters?
Yeah, and I have Asperger's. I always loved wrestling. I knew it, the thing, but it's just the guy should, I guess, shut his mouth because I guess you don't know that Kevin Owens and his son have a love of wrestling. It's pretty much that's what bonds them. As a father and son. Seeing the picture on Twitter, you had the his dad, he had the little lunchbox with his dad, John Cena, Kobe Kingston on his lunchbox, and he had the Universal Championship in the background. He's like, I'm bringing my son to school, and that dude sounds like he's a jerk, because he's ruining a moment. And I think Kevin Owens just go to his house and just pop up powerbomb him.
Phone lines are unreliable, really?
Yeah, I'm about to type y'all's your YouTube pages.
Oh, well, yeah.
Next week, these things are going in the dumpster like Monday. They got new ones coming. So.
Okay, so we do apologize about that. If you guys want to
comment on yours, what on Twitter? You have a Twitter?
At the Wrestle Gamer. Okay, guys and gals. But anyway, El Hassan's remarks have definitely sparked some responses from people. First off, Cody Rhodes would respond on Twitter by saying, WWE cut ties with TMZ. They ran my mother's 911 call. Cut ties with ESPN. They insulted a child. Have balls. Mainstream ain't always worth it.
Yeah, it's true.
Jonathan Coachman would respond by saying, really? Thought you were better. Been jaded too long filling in for at Batard show. Can't appreciate real emotion. I agree, and we'll handle it. You know what they say, those who can do, those who can't criticize. And even Mick Foley said, an apology from ESPN seems like the least they can do. So my question to you gentlemen, are people making a mountain, and Nick, I want to start with you first, are people making a mountain out of a molehill, or is Ahmad El Hassan a scumbag for his comments?
I think this El Hassan guy, which, nice name, by the way. But I think he's just trying to make a name for himself. Like nobody, and I think Cody Rhodes actually mentioned that in one of his comments that nobody knew this guy before. So he's just trying to make a name for himself. Don't give him the time of day.
Yeah.
Or
to a child, 8-year-old, like what 8-year-old's gonna say back?
Well, everything offends everybody nowadays, So I guess, but you don't go after kids. That's kind of the main thing there. So.
Well, what about our crawling gentleman that just crawled underneath the camera? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I'm with y'all. It's there are things that I would like to still be like off limits as a form of an honor code or something.
Right, you don't mess with kids.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's just taking it's a step too far especially when you start bringing someone's family into the equation, and that's exactly what El Hassan had did, and I think people have a right to be upset and angry over those comments, especially when it pertains to an 8-year-old kid.
And it's running like a moment, it just seems like you're more of a douchebag,
Definitely.
Douchebag.
Yeah.
Well, guys and gals, it seems the only way you can communicate with us this week is via the YouTube chat room on youtube.com/WrestleGamer. So if you guys want to get in and if you have any thoughts, and I know one of our usual callers, Corey, would have liked to have called in, but we do not have reliable phones this week, so we do apologize about that.
Technology can't.
What's the other thing we were talking to me and you? You told me about about the guy who wants to get rid of Roman Reigns' vest.
Oh, yes. Listen to this, guys and gals. And Nick, I don't know if you heard this yet, but a wrestling fan has actually started a petition to have Roman Reigns' vest removed from his career permanently.
Well, it's an unfair advantage.
Well, this is from a fan by the name of Mike Huck. And he started a petition on change.org, and he said the campaign is to remove the illegal vest during the course of WWE competition. Now listen to this. He plans to deliver this petition to the following people. Vince McMahon, which kind of makes sense. He's the head of WWE.
Sure.
Jack Tunney. Jack Tunney's not even in WWE anymore.
He passed away, I think.
Exactly.
All right.
Mick Foley.
Sounds like a joke.
Yeah, Mick Foley, Stephanie McMahon, Barack Obama, Francisco Aguilar of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Senator John McCain, and as well as Congressman Tony Cardenas and Elijah Cummings.
Very nice.
This is what the complaint says, and quote, Roman Reigns has been systematically breaking the rules of Admiral Lord Mount Evans' unified rules of professional wrestling through the use of illegal body armor to protect himself during the course of matches with legitimately dressed competitors, and has been doing so throughout his career. First off, that's not true. If you followed his career from Florida Championship Wrestling, he wasn't even wearing it during that time.
Yeah, he's just wearing little trunks,
Yeah, we require swift action that prohibits the use of this body armor in all future WWE contests by Mr. Reigns and anyone else. First off, I have never heard of Admiral Lord Mount Evans' unified rules of professional wrestling.
He's like the NWA or something.
I think it's obvious that this is a joke, but it's a pretty good one, in my opinion.
Or the guy's like,
Yeah.
Hey,
just a
what
little wrestling humor.
like I was telling Billy, what about he has to say something about you need to go watch WWE Network for $9.99 and go and watch about D'Lo Brown had a chest protector back in the day.
That he did.
And you better recognize.
Hey, and Lex Luger had a metal plate in his arm.
Yeah. Talk about that. Or who else had
I can't really think of anybody else.
Bobby Orton. Bob Orton had
Cowboy Bob Orton.
Cowboy Bob Orton had a cast.
Yeah, he was very nefarious for that. And he had a cast for like 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, like his arm never healed.
It really didn't. Really.
Yeah, but anyway, let's take a little bit look at Monday Night Raw, Nick. What were some of the things that you saw off Monday Night Raw that were good and were not good, in your personal opinion?
Well, I thought most of the show was pretty not good. But until you got to the main event, really. There's a lot of talent that goes unused on Raw that I think SmackDown could really use, because the mid card in SmackDown is non-existent really outside of the Miz, and but I don't know, and I guess now Dolph Ziggler as well. Raw was pretty good. Definitely the title match was an A++ for me. You know, I mean, it was one of those wrestling moments, like this is why you watch kind of things. But I don't know what you think, Mark.
I think Raw was, we get a grade like the 2.5. But like I said, like the main event was really, entertaining, and you got to see somebody who, people wanted to win the championship at the main event.
Well, and for me personally, I think I'm kind of tired of the whole Nia Jax and Braun Strowman dual build, like how they just beat jobbers every week. We get it,
Yeah, they're trying to make them look like they're monsters. And I want to shout out to Murico, and he's a guy that
Americos.
Maricos, he wrestles in Homa.
Local guy.
Yeah, from Texas, and he's a good friend of ours. I go on the road with Rodney Mack and Professor P. Shout out to them. I know they're not watching, but he did a really good job. I guess he lost, but he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Billy?
Well, when you look at the Fatal 4-Way, and this is the way I dissected it. First off, when you look at Big Cass, and it's one thing I said earlier this week on my channel, I like Big Cass, but he was not ready for a championship. Not in the slightest. So even though I liked him,
even though he had the loudest pop,
even though he had the loudest pop, he still wasn't ready. Yeah. So, like, I kind of foresee him being the first elimination, and that's exactly what happened. Right. Then it was down to the three main event guys, in my personal opinion, with the Roman Reigns, with Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens. And when it came to that, WWE had to pull something out of their rear ends. I don't want to say the other word for it, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble here on AOC. And by the way, a slight correction on my Twitter, it's the THE WrestleGamer.
They're following somebody else now.
Yeah. But when you look at that, WWE actually had to pull something out of the proverbial hat to actually make it interesting. And the usage of Triple H definitely was interesting. Now, when he attacked Roman Reigns, that was kind of expected, because I think we even said it on last week's show, that Roman Reigns and the Triple H storyline never really had a conclusion to it. Yeah. So seeing that was really kind of expected. But again, the unexpected turn was Triple H turning on Seth Rollins and pedigreeing him and allowing Kevin Owens, and now leaving it on that cliffhanger was a smart move by WWE, because now it creates interest in the product. There are a lot of fans now who want to see where this story is going to go next week. What was Triple H thinking, storyline-wise? What was he thinking attacking Seth Rollins? Where creatively is WWE going with this? I think that's what the fans want to see, and I think that's the kind of storylines WWE needs to start doing again to grab the fans' interest.
Yeah, I was talking to Nick earlier about a storyline. I said maybe they do a thing like trouble with SmackDown. They could do like, Daniel Bryan's the general manager of SmackDown now, but we have Kevin Owens. Look at that. They can start stuff like, well, we have Kevin Owens. Daniel Bryan say that we didn't want him to be the authority. We didn't like him. Kevin Owens is big. Kind of a chunky. He's not the normal, guy that, authority would like. Be like, well, he's our god now, make that a storyline. And he can feud, Kevin Owens can feud with Seth Rollins later on, Roman Reigns. And they said they're bringing back Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns as a tag team.
Shield.
Yeah, the Shield.
Yeah, so we might see some Shield reunion, maybe
another check protected
the Jedi as opposed to the dark side.
Yeah.
It was definitely something, but if I have to plead with WWE about anything, stop the Darren Young, Titus O'Neil storyline, please.
Holy moly! Yeah,
please.
How many times did they wrestle?
They need to go back being a tag team and get Bob Backlund to be their manager.
They need to stop having Bob Backlund taking bumps at his age.
Yeah.
He's probably all up for it.
Because he's crazy. Yeah. With his tooth out and like, oh yes.
I just think Neville and Jericho in the opening match was pretty decent.
Oh, yes.
And I always get a kick out of Jericho and even Kevin Owens backstage with Tom Phillips calling him Felipe.
I am always up for some Tom Phillips humiliation.
Because you don't like him, you hate him and stuff.
Not only that, he's a terrible commentator. I'm looking right into this camera, and I'm looking into my eyes, Tom Phillips. You are a horrible commentator, and I can smoke circles around you.
Oh.
Yeah, he can. He's the
Calling
best.
you out, Tom.
Yeah.
Felipe.
See, there's a reason why you have your tickets at $1,500 a pop. You don't want guys like me in there showing you the what's what when it comes to commentary.
Yeah.
Watch out. Booyah. Do we have the explosion, Jacob?
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, like this. 3, 2, 1. Boom!
Wow, that did
Boom.
bad.
Oh, that was like a vapor right there.
Drop.
I might have another
Mic
one.
drop.
We'll save the other one for later.
Mic
Yeah.
drop.
Boom.
Yeah, that's kind of like a little Dragon Ball Z beam right there. You know
Hey,
what I
you
mean?
catch Pokemon, so you're like a level, what? 20?
14.
14?
14.
Yeah.
Although I'm kind of out of Pokeballs at the moment, so I can't really play.
He's out of Pokeballs, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but the thing is, if I want to get more, I actually have to pay for it, and I'm serious about that. But as we kind of look towards SmackDown Live this week, one of the things that was talked about a lot, and we even talked about it on last week's show, was the whole shoot promo that The Miz did on Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really wanted to see, Nick, if they were going to follow up with that, and they really didn't. They really didn't do anything with that.
It's like do the wave here. No, it appears they didn't, and that was like a very hot storyline after last week. But they didn't, as you mentioned, they didn't really follow up through it. And Daniel Bryan even mentioned like, okay, they told us not to say anything. We're not allowed to work with each other anymore. And I honestly think that they're kind of building it almost for Miz to have a really long title reign.
He might be
Daniel Bryan maybe to even come back.
They say
Well,
it might be
well-
the Honky Tonk Man's title reign.
Well,
It's
when
like
it was
the
on SmackDown, it
everlasting
was
title reign, or what's it called?
yeah,
What's it
Miz's
called?
everlasting title reign, 148 days from when they said on SmackDown. So I would think like 149, 150.
Well, I heard rumors that they were planning on having him break like the Honky Tonk Man's record.
And he's gonna have to have that title for at least another year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But it's still one of the most infamous title reigns ever when it comes to the Intercontinental Championship, the Honky Tonk Man reign, which was ended by the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Of
Like in how many
of all
seconds?
people.
Like 30.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few things about SmackDown Live this week, gentlemen, that made me facepalm quite a bit. The first thing was the trailer interview with Heath Slater and
I
Brian.
thought it was kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of running like Dr. D. Schultz, like the 21st century. You remember Dr. D when they went to Dr. D's house and he was talking about how redneck he was and stuff. It's kind of like that. It was like a 21st century version of it.
Oh,
I honestly think you're looking at your next tag team champions on SmackDown.
No,
with
the
Rhino and
first-
Heath Slater.
SmackDown Tag Team Champions.
I think we just shook for a second. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
It's either gonna be them or
Ah!
Rusev. Whoa!
I feel a little sick now.
It's an earthquake.
Yeah.
But you never know.
By the explosion, though.
Oh man.
Yeah, but for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, apparently they decided to have an interview with Heath Slater and Rhino in Heath Slater's home with his wife. I put that up in
And a
quotation
single
marks.
wide trailer.
Yeah, with his
Yeah.
kids that you didn't get to see.
Yeah, baby.
And
Seven
a
kids.
lot of it was, I even said it on YouTube earlier this week, was stereotypical Southern comedy.
Right?
But Heath Slater has done very well pulling it off.
He's over just
Yeah,
about more
yeah.
than anybody in the
Yeah.
on the SmackDown roster. So. I mean,
And what did Rhino do during the whole segment? Eat cheese whiz on crackers?
Yeah.
I'm serious.
all he
It
does
was
is
entertaining. Yeah, it was
All he
entertaining.
does is eat cheese whiz and crackers and gore people. You
Yeah.
know? I mean that's
That's
all he
Rhino,
can do.
man.
And run the political office.
Yeah, that's Rhino, man. You know.
So.
But now, when you look at the match, first off, the headbangers, did they actually age? Because I couldn't tell.
Well, I guess when you're bald with face paint, like it's hard to really age that much.
But they still wrestle, you know, indies, and you know they keep. I guess they keep.
Actually, for WrestleForHire.com, like they got the headbangers on there.
Yep.
Yeah, but they also did disclose that this was going to be a one-time deal they did with the headbangers. And I got to say, overall, the match, I kind of thought it went one way. I thought they wouldn't have Rhino just let Heath Slater get pwned left and right, just have him out there, you know, as a joke. But it actually didn't turn out that way. But
Well, he's
what
built
I
as
want to
an
know...
underdog, really.
Yeah, but did you guys, any of you guys catch what happened to Rhino when Mosh knocked him off the ring apron and he came back and his face was cut up and bloody?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what happened. If it was something that happened to him when he was knocked off the ring apron, if it was something with the ropes or something like that, I'm not entirely sure.
Rhino's a tough guy, and I think he can handle that little bump.
Yeah, he was an ECW.
Yeah, me and a very good friend of mine on WGS-TV, the Bay Area MVP, known as Will, we're both kind of discussing back and forth about exactly what happened, and nobody could really tell just where exactly did the cut happen on Rhino's face.
There's a little Tron of maybe the ring apron screen maybe. Then like Triple H, hurt his thigh from that thing.
Yeah. Now, one thing I said earlier in the week, Nick, is I don't want to see Apollo Crews bumped down to mid-card status. I think he's way too talented to be at that level of a mid-carder.
I disagree.
Really? You don't like Apollo Crews?
I mean, what, do you think he should be a world champion?
Well,
He couldn't
no.
beat, he couldn't beat The Miz. And he has no storyline.
Well,
Give me a good Apollo Crews storyline, and maybe I'll give you an Apollo Crews title. But for right now, look at SmackDown's mid-card. I was just saying now, SmackDown's mid-card is pretty terrible. They got The Miz and Dolph Ziggler. Basically, that's it. And then a bunch of tags and then a bunch of main event guys.
Raw's mid-card.
Raw has a bunch of people like Jack Swagger, like, Golden Truth, like those people that
Cesaro.
SmackDown could really use.
yeah, that's true. Golden Truth is on Raw. I thought they were on
And
SmackDown.
they don't even use those people,
Yeah.
and SmackDown you're struggling, just
They have more tag teams than SmackDown.
I personally think when they bring the Cruiserweight division officially on Monday Night Raw,
They should let.
they should let some of those mid-carders go to SmackDown. But then again, that's still going to present a problem because you're going to overload a roster just for a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to get a chance to have a spot on the show.
Yeah.
So that in itself presents a problem. But the match he worked, I'm talking about Apollo Crews, the matchup he worked with AJ Styles was a really good match.
It was a good match. I thought Apollo Crews. I mean, he's proven himself in the ring. There's no doubt about that. He just has not proven himself as far as his character, and just backstage and having interesting promos. More like he just doesn't say stereotypical stuff, like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat that guy" or whatever,
Yeah.
Do you think he needed more time in NXT to develop his character?
Possibly so. I mean, and they say he's a hard worker. He's an excellent wrestler. He's, strong and he's very athletic, but he's just kind of boring.
What's up to Billy Kiff in the chat room? Billy Kiff is a good friend of mine. What's up, Bill?
Oh, another Billy.
Yeah.
Hashtag S.E.T. on
Yeah.
Twitter.
But I think maybe Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews could be tag team. They kind of look alike.
The Primetime Players version 2?
Yeah.
Could be.
I definitely think some free agents could go over to SmackDown. I mean, really, look what are they doing with Sami Zayn right now? He went against Jinder Mahal on Raw. What are they doing with Jinder Mahal?
Talent enhancement at best.
Maybe in the cruiserweights.
Jack Swagger. The list goes on and on.
I'd like to see Sami Zayn against Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship.
And you know what irks me about that statement? When they don't use them on the actual shows, you see them on their WWE Network shows, like Swerved and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
Well, they got to do so, and really, they pretty much wrestle superstars in main event.
yeah.
Is what ends up happening. But we also did see a return on SmackDown with Kane coming back.
Oh my.
Yeah, the Milkman.
I guess Kalisto must be hurt. Because they never really ended up having that match, and they mentioned that Kalisto was hurt at SummerSlam, but it looks like it's going to be maybe Baron Corbin and Kane at Backlash.
I'm not sure, but if people are wondering what I'm face-palming about, he brought it up about the Kane segment, about the milkman who actually went in the ring, said, I want a contract, and stripped down to his underwear. His tidy whitey.
Yeah, what was that all about? Random guy has match, undresses in the ring, Kane comes out and choke slams him. Okay.
Hey, you get
Well, one thing, he's got to be a local
area.
area talent. He's got to be an independent talent.
Well, and he crossed paths with Corbin, and then like they looked at each other.
And to me, that's a subtle clue. That's a subtle clue right there of them starting an angle between the two.
Well, Kalisto must be hurt. As
Exactly.
I said,
But I think I think it's great that Kane's having a match with Baron Corbin because I think Kane's gonna help Baron Corbin.
he's gonna put him over.
Yeah, put him over, and I think he could probably mentor Baron Corbin and be like, you're a big guy, big guys, do this and do that. Kane's an awesome hand in wrestling, and he needs to help Baron Corbin get the big guy mentality.
Which, are you a fan of Baron Corbin, Billy?
You know what? I'm kind of on the fence about him because when he was in NXT doing the 20, 30-second matches, you really can't show anybody anything in 20 to 30 seconds.
Right.
Because you're just doing like one or two moves and that's it. When he started progressing more, he started showing more. I was impressed with him. In ring, I think he's really good, but his promo skills are very lacking. I think he needs work on his promo skills, and if not, have somebody talk for him. If they could have someone as stupid as Brock Lesnar be a part of a talent, and have Paul Heyman talk for him, why can't you have someone who's actually a legit talent like Baron Corbin and have somebody talk for him?
Brock Lesnar would whoop Baron Corbin.
Yeah, but I think Paul Aaron would be a cool manager for Baron Corbin. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And I think I agree. I mean, Corbin to me is kind of similar, I guess, to Apollo Crews, that his character's just not developed because he doesn't get enough airtime, honestly.
Like Sons of Anarchy was
What has he done since the brand split? He's just attacked Kalisto backstage. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, and they were going on that storyline, but Kalisto, I guess, kept getting hurt.
Yeah.
So that kind of hampered him when that's his storyline, and you can't really work it whenever your partner's out. So also another interesting thing we saw on SmackDown was the interaction between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton.
I like the idea of pairing these two together. It's going to make for...
I was hoping they would have done that at WrestleMania, but Randy Orton wasn't back yet.
Yeah, it wasn't back.
And Bray Wyatt ended up jobbing out for The Rock.
Yeah. And I talked to June, July, August. He said he doesn't like
September.
Yeah, September. He said I met him on the bus. He said he doesn't like Bray Wyatt's character right now. He said he's too sinister. And I told him
He's always been.
That's his character.
That's his character.
Exactly.
He needs to be that way. He's like, well, you can't do that anymore. Kids and stuff. I'm like, that's his character. He's
scary.
He's supposed to be scary. I love his dreadlocks now.
He's like the horror movie character,
He's the one that tells the kids about the crazy
Deliverance.
Story.
Exactly.
But,
exactly.
I don't know what y'all think of. We were talking about Baron Corbin. What did you think of him in the main event with Dean Ambrose? I'm kind of bored with Ambrose, honestly, right now. I'm predicting right now AJ Styles is going to be your new WWE champion after a couple weeks.
I think so too.
Nick, first off, Chris says hi. And he says it's probably a bad decision to split up Raw and SmackDown. Not sure if the big wigs are earning those sweet paychecks.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think honestly they did it just to build their talent, just because they weren't ready for it, honestly, and we're suffering right now. But it's gonna, in the long run, it's gonna build more stars.
Yeah,
because you're gonna have more people that have titles under, like Kevin Owens, for instance.
Yeah.
If there were only one world title, it would be a long time before he'd be champion.
Yeah, exactly. We wouldn't even have a universal title.
Right, and I think it's good for that thing. It's building more stars.
And last time, the last split, they did it to make it more interesting for the product. I don't think they have it now, but they used to have Paul Heyman said when he did SmackDown and they had Raw, they had a very,
But
competition.
they were stacked then, but like
Yeah.
if you think like going back to when WWF sucked, like in '94, and they like started getting Stone Cold and Rock and all them around '95, '96. It took them really like 2 years for them to get like really big and over, like
Yeah.
with the mainstream audience. So.
Or just get their characters in, that position.
Because during that time, during that era between 94 and 96, WWE was transitioning from over-the-top characters to more along the lines of realism characters.
Which is what they're doing now, kind
Exactly, in a sense. So, but now back to SmackDown Live very quickly. I think one of the things that actually saved the main event was AJ Styles on commentary. He did a magnificent job, not only putting over the match, but putting over his title match.
He's impressed me on the mic.
And
lately.
Ambrose too, yeah.
Yeah, but the ending was kind of, I don't know. I don't know how to really
It
describe the
almost like
ending.
inserted Baron Corbin in their feud to a certain degree.
To a certain degree, but when Styles went for the phenomenal forearm at the after the finish of the match, and Ambrose swatted the leg, and Styles ended up crouching, riding the top rope like a pony. I don't know if that's proper terminology, but that's what ended up happening. Let's just say one went east, one went west, and we'll let you figure out what we're talking about. Ambrose then shook AJ Styles' hand like he was sorry. Then he ended up patting him on the shoulder, looking down like. And I don't know what to think about that other than what the hell.
Yeah, Ambrose is a quacky guy, though. I mean, and that's his thing, I guess. But honestly, I mean, Ambrose, like I kind of almost like just like the vest with Roman Reigns. I'm ready to get rid of the wife beater and the blue jeans.
Yeah, do something different, like wear maybe some tights or wear, something else
It's
besides.
becoming a little stale for me.
Yeah, he looks like, and Luke Harper wears the same thing.
So he needs to be like a little bit more into the gimmick as a lunatic, is what you're saying?
Yeah, like
Possibly
women.
so. I mean, I've always thought he would be really good if like he was a heel and they had him come out like in a straitjacket or something like that. He is committed or something.
Do you think they possibly would have had an opportunity to do that in the angle between him and Dolph Ziggler?
Yeah, I definitely thought they could have, and they really let go of that feud pretty early. I would say. I thought they were going to extend it into Backlash from SummerSlam, but I think they're ready to actually take the title off of Dean Ambrose and go with AJ Styles, because it was actually reported that the original plans was to have AJ Styles actually win the Universal Championship, and like that would be the SmackDown
been on
belt.
Raw. Yeah.
And then the world title would have been on Raw,
Yeah.
and it would have been Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins' main event of SummerSlam. But let's see, did we get everything? Oh yeah, the hype bros. Woo woo woo.
Woo, you know it.
To me, they made the Vaudevillains look like bigger chumps than the Ascension. It was a 5-minute squash match. The Hype Bros squashed the Vaudevillains.
Yeah, boy.
I repeat, the Hype Brothers. The Hype Bros.
Not NXT.
You'll stay hype. You stay hype.
We got storylines here, to protect. But hey, they just advanced. They'll end
The
up
problem
losing.
I have with that, I don't mean to interrupt you, Nick, but the problem I have with that is I am a big fan of the Vaudevillains as a tag team. They were really good on NXT. I thought they were going to make big strides when they went to the main roster, and they basically have just taken the route of the Ascension and the main roster. They just really don't know what to do. And then you make them job out to the Hype Bros of all people?
Well, you know why, though, because next week the Hype Bros are going to have to job out to Heath Slater and Rhino.
Yeah, you do have a point there.
And then that's going to put Slater and Rhino in the finals against the winner of American Alpha and the Usos.
I think American Alpha is going to go over on that one.
I
Because-
don't know.
Well, they've really pushed them a lot, the American Alpha, ever since the brand split and they debuted on the main roster. I'm not taking anything away from the Usos. Nobody could. They've really earned everything they've done. But American Alpha's hot right now.
Yeah.
I agree, but I almost think that you're going to see a Uso heel turn coming. And possibly it might even happen to where the American Alpha beats the Usos and the Usos cost them the win against Slater and Rhino. Like they distract them and then Rhino gores them. And then, so I can see something like that happening and ultimately a feud between the Usos because those are the two top tag teams on there. So the Usos and the Alphas need to have a feud to kind of build them up.
Okay, I think now we should move on to the two shows that I think are saving WWE right now. And that first one is NXT. Other than the fact that Tom Phillips is a terrible commentator on that show, I still tolerate the program because of the overall talent that's on the show. First off, Ty Dillinger, the perfect 10 Ty Dillinger. For a guy who basically would look like he's lower mid-card to mid-card status, he is just over like hell on the NXT universe with the perfect 10 gimmick. You know, 10. Do we have a 10 graphic, by the way, Jacob?
Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, he just goes out to the ring and he does 10. 10, and the crowd just melts in his hand when he does that.
Because he's charismatic and he's a good wrestler. You know, people love that.
Yep, he would take on Buddy Murphy. Ty Dillinger would end up winning with his version of the tiebreaker. Then Revival attacking Tommaso Ciampa, I think would probably, basically, in my mind, Nick, kind of end the feud in a sense with them and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, because I think Gargano is legit injured, and I think he's out with a knee injury.
Yeah, I would imagine that would probably be the end of that feud. But, you know, I mean, I think, what was the team? Like Area 51 or whatever?
TM61?
TM61, yeah.
But let's not forget about the authors of Pain, though.
But heels against heels, you usually don't see that. You know, it could happen. It could happen just like a show of dominance against kind of the crafty bad guys.
Yeah, but who did they have as a face tag team other than TM61 on NXT? They really don't.
Gargano and Ciampa.
And they're out.
Right. And, I mean, you could always just pair a couple stars together. You know,
Yep.
maybe Almas and, like,
Hideo
Jose or something.
Hideo to Tommy with Nakamura.
Well, I mean, Nakamura is the NXT champion, and I think they really want Nakamura and Samoa Joe on Raw and SmackDown as soon as possible.
Yeah, I agree with that one. We also saw Steve Cutler taking on Kenneth Crawford. These are two young talents. They had Steve Cutler cut a somewhat semi-decent promo. It wasn't really anything spectacular, but it was still okay by our standards in a sense. It was Cutler with a fisherman's driver on Kenneth Crawford to pick up the win. No Way Jose, what are your thoughts been about No Way Jose? How do you think he's been progressing ever since he debuted?
He's gotten much better. He's got an entertaining gimmick. I mean, it's over with the NXT crowd. I'm not sure if I think he would be a comedy act on the main roster. You know, so it's like then that's kind of the way I look at NXT guys sometimes. Like for instance, Adam Rose. You know, like when I first saw Adam Rose, like whoa, my new favorite wrestler. Like that was awesome. But then you see it kind of transform onto the main roster, and it doesn't really play out on the big stage as much.
No, it doesn't. I call it being lost in the mid-card shuffle.
Surely, and eventually, you know, like just like the vaudevillains, like you were just saying, you're a comedy act before you know it.
Exactly. But one of the things that really kind of struck my interest was the interview segment that happened after No Way Jose beat Angelo Dawkins with a full Nelson Slam. He was cutting a promo about his win, and then Bobby Roode, of all people, would show up and just say, "Nice hair." Again, another subtle hint by WWE Creative, or NXT Creative, we could say at this point, of starting another angle, and one could say at this point right now, NXT starting an angle between No Way Jose and Bobby Roode.
This could very well happen, and from what we've been hearing, it's possible James Storm might be coming back.
How awesome, how glorious would it be?
Glorious!
We need to have like a little something up here, like shining when we go glorious. If you know what I mean, Jacob. Glorious!
All the hands.
Yeah.
All the hands.
And everybody loved it.
Yeah, but beer money in NXT, that is a very, very possibility of that happening. And we also had Liv Morgan and Aaliyah. I gotta say, you know, again, a female talent's really starting to progress. And in WWE, especially in NXT, Liv Morgan would get the win. And then Shinsuke Nakamura. Well, first off, Andre Cien Almas was cutting a promo backstage, and then he would get interrupted by Austin Aries, who was eating a banana. I have no idea why. But he was eating banana. And then he would start to cut a promo about how he's not getting respected. He was getting disrespected by Hideo Itami. Even Itami cut a promo earlier in the night and saying that if Austin Aries didn't like it, then he was going to make him go to sleep. So basically, Itami's picking up the go to sleep gimmick that apparently CM Punk failed on in WWE.
He's the originator of the GTS. Anyway.
CM Punk is even in court right now, I think, with WWE, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I haven't read anything in a
think
long
he is,
time
yeah.
about it.
I read about it today, and it said that like Vince McMahon is like waging or funding a lawsuit against him or whatever for defamation. I guess
Nobody
against
messes
the
with me.
doctor.
Great
But let's finish NXT.
And then it was Shinsuke Nakamura, the new NXT champion, would come out, basically cut a promo about how this is going to be the era of strong style. And one thing that to take notice is the beginning of NXT this week when they talked about Samoa Joe. Well, some guy who said he was WWE doctors, but they said that due to some undisclosed injuries, Samoa Joe will not be able to physically compete in NXT for quite some time. Do you think that's WWE's way of kind of sidebarring him into the main roster?
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Who dat?
Yeah.
I have no idea what that was, and I am
The
scared.
Saints just scored a touchdown. My
Oh.
phone tells me.
Okay. But anyway, like I've said before, NXT has been one of the saving graces of WWE, but a new show, in my personal opinion, has also stepped up to be a saving grace for WWE, and that's the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yes.
That show so far, from the very first show to last night, has been a strong, solid show. And last
Strong
night's
show.
show was absolutely phenomenal. I don't even need to bring up my notes because I still remember what happened in the first match with Akira Tozawa and Grand Metalik. That was absolutely off the chain awesome.
Yeah. And they're getting they already signed, doing matches for NXT and for Evolve, and like you pretty much know why because they put them on the clinic.
And they're going to the main roster. Well, they're going to be on Raw in here about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. But it was an amazing match, to say the least. And I gotta say, Daniel Bryan makes a really good color commentator.
I agree.
He brings a lot of insight into it. Some very good analysis into the moves. And you know me, with me being a commentator, I am a big stickler for great commentary in wrestling.
Yeah.
Because commentary can make or break a show, because you're supposed to be there to verbally tell the story of a match, while the wrestlers in the ring physically tell the story of the match. And Daniel Bryan and Mauro Ranallo have been a really good, solid team.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm a Mauro Ranallo fan.
Yeah. I guess if Dan Bryan was the GM, I think they should have get rid of David Otunga and put Dan Bryan as the one of the commentators.
But I don't know if you can be storyline-wise the GM and a commentator at the same time.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I don't know if they could pull that off. But
I think Jerry Lawler would even be better than
David Otunga, yeah. Because I don't think Otunga's really panning out to
And
be...
he was okay on the pre-show.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll give him that. But just when you think the CWC this week couldn't get any better, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
Kota Ibushi and the Brian Kendrick.
Oh.
That match stole the show this week.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. The crowd was emotionally invested into it. You could even tell Daniel Bryan was emotionally invested into this storyline because of their past history. For those of you who still don't know, Daniel Bryan and the Brian Kendrick trained at Shawn Michaels training school and actually started in the wrestling industry together.
Their first matches against each other.
Exactly. But I gotta say this though, when the match was over and Ibushi won, you could actually hear real emotion out of Daniel Bryan's voice. And now we said a lot of these guys in the Cruiserweight Classic have been signed to the main roster. What are the chances and the probability of seeing such an emotional response from Daniel Bryan? And I think that's legit. I don't think it's work, especially out of not only of Daniel Bryan but Brian Kendrick as well. Seeing that, what's the likelihood that Brian Kendrick did not get signed?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if anything, they might be able to bring him up to SmackDown and have him kind of help out in the mid card because they're trying to bring in a bunch of names.
Or Raw, Cruiserweight, make him the Cruiserweight champion, and he can go different, go to mid card, go to.
Well, I think they got a Bushi or whatever.
But I think Kendrick has still proven himself, in my opinion, that he's
Sure.
still got it. That
Yeah,
he can
he's
still-
better now than he was when he was, like he said in his interviews and promos. He said, "I'm smarter now. I'm different now. Like when I was hot, when I was in my 20s, that I was stupid. I said stupid things. He had heat backstage, but now I think he's better, wrestler, better, politician backstage. I think he would do awesome in WWE.
One would think that he could be a big role model to some of the younger talent backstage, and they could learn from him.
Yeah.
But man, one spot I definitely have to bring up in the Kota Ibushi, the Brian Kendrick match. I don't know if you guys did you guys see the match?
I actually did not.
But there, have you ever heard of the spot called the Burning Hammer? It's actually an inverted Death Valley driver.
Yeah.
And it was a wicked spot. But personally, in my mind, the Brian Kendrick has proven himself that he still had it, that he could still go in WWE, and I still firmly believe that he should be signed to the main roster and should be on Monday Night Raw in the Cruiserweight division.
Yeah.
He's proven it in the CWC.
I agree, and really, a lot of the guys have proven themselves in the CWC.
Oh yeah, like Akira Tozawa, Grandma Talik, Cedric Alexander, to name a few people. They've really proven themselves. And Jack Gallagher, another name to consider, Zack Sabre Jr. These are all of the talents that have been involved in the CWC are legit, really awesome talents. WWE would not have signed these guys if they were terrible talents.
Right, and I mean that's going to overflow Raw's roster, which will help them out. But they'll need to send some of that extra talent to SmackDown.
Yeah.
So how about we propose a formula for Monday Night Raw and dedicate 1 hour to the Cruiserweights?
Nitro did.
Yeah, exactly. Why not have 1 hour for the Cruiserweights and have them develop the Cruiserweights in that hour, and then you can have the
More
other 2 hours.
Cruiserweights, less Titus O'Neil and Darren Young.
Exactly. Definitely.
What y'all think of the old fart infomercial that the club did? I don't know. What was that all about? The New Day, I guess. I guess you're entertained by the,
it was.
I
thought it was quite entertaining. Because one of the things is the fact that the Dudley Boys last week in their last segment in WWE put over the club, so to bring more hype into them. So, my hats off to the Dudley Boys for actually doing that. And so I guess they could really, they really had them do that to adopt into that new gimmick, into that storyline of the retirement home. Dana Brooks scared me with the blue glove. I don't know if you guys got scared from that, but she snapped the glove and I'm like a 10-step for some reason. But I still thought it was entertaining.
Should be a hot nurse.
It was a good. Of course, it's always nice to see Bailey.
Oh, of course,
with the New Day.
Hey,
and they get along pretty good, and they were all like actually her uniform kind of matched the New Day's.
Yeah,
all rainbowy.
And then New Day is still entertaining in my eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
And they wanted to break them up, and I'm like, that would be the dumbest thing. And now I think they're making themselves better.
Well, gentlemen, before we head out this week, we still have a little time. I have a couple of topics I want to bring up to you guys. On a recent interview with Kevin Eck on his YouTube channel, Broken Matt Hardy voiced his thoughts on a couple of things concerning McMahon. That's McMahon, for those of you who don't know. And anyway, he went on to criticize him for copying his broken brilliance when it comes to Brother Nero Wyatt. Just to clarify, he was referring to them copying the Final Deletion match with the New Day versus Wyatt family fight at the Wyatt family compound. He would also call out Brother Nero Hawkins, that's Kurt Hawkins, over the usage of the facts, which is very similar to what Matt Hardy did when he was Matt Hardy version 1. And he had the facts displayed during his entrance.
Right.
So, but this really isn't the first time WWE and McMahon, for that matter, have been called out for copying their competition, in a sense. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. They do it on a weekly basis. I mean, like, they pretty much watch all the other wrestling shows, and they do that on Raw the next week.
Yeah, nobody would notice. The wrestling fans are stupid. They don't want to notice.
And now the last thing I want to talk about this week, which will probably spark a little bit of controversy, and thanks to YouTube's new terms of service, it might not monetize this video, but I don't care. Vince Russo's level of intelligence has sunk into a brand new low. As he stated on his... And listen to this. On his recent podcast, he stated that David Arquette was more over than Kevin Owens will ever be. On what planet, on what plane of existence does that statement hold up, Vince Russo? You putting the WCW World Heavyweight Championship on Arquette was a slap to the face of the performers and the wrestlers who bust their butts in the industry, and you put the title on an actor.
And he didn't even want to have the title too either. You know, he was like, I don't want to be champion. You know, I'm not a wrestler, and he did it anyway.
But listen to this. Russo will go on to state in his podcast that, quote, casual wrestling fans and casual wrestling viewers in general knew who David Arquette was. That's first of all. Casual viewers have no idea who Kevin Owens is. And every time he comes out, literally, they're like, who is this guy? So the comparison is ridiculous. Let me point out the flaw in your statement, Mr. Russo. Number one, if a casual wrestling fan asks who Kevin Owens is, then that person is not a casual wrestling fan. Wrestling fans, whether they're casual or hardcore, follow the product and know the talent. So right there blows your statement completely out of the water.
Yeah, bro.
Number two, the only reason why people knew who David Arquette was due to the fact that he was an actor. He was in movies. He was involved in the Scream movies at
And
that
he's
time.
married to Courtney Cox
Exactly.
from Friends. That's why only.
And because of all that, people knew who he was. That's the only reason why people knew who he was. You felt it was necessary to put a championship on somebody with zero training and zero experience in the wrestling industry.
He was in the wrestling movie.
Yeah, but that's just a movie.
But-
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, you only have training for a movie. But what's even more shocking than that, Mr. Russo, is that you have the unmitigated gall to stand by that decision, to slap the wrestling industry in its face and put a championship on an actor who basically has no business being in the industry in the first place. And you stand by that decision?
Yeah.
What drugs are you on, Mr. Russo? Are you on June's drugs? Are you smoking his stash? But that's just my personal
Hashtag
opinion.
June on Twitter.
Yeah.
But that's just my personal opinion about Vince Russo. To say that David Arquette was more over than Kevin Owens will ever be, to me, that's just a load of crock.
I think Vince Russo is pretty much get on the deep end, or he wants to be like in the limelight, you know. And like I said, like, you know, Vince Russo should have stayed being a writer instead of. What about him, like, being on the show? You know, he's a writer. You should have just stayed, you know, backstage instead of being on the show. He wanted to be on the show.
If Vince Russo has the balls, call this show next week, and you and I
Our
can
phones are working.
next week, and you and I can have a little one-on-one discussion about how wrong you are when it comes to David Arquette being more over than Kevin Owens is. And I will personally tweet this video out to you in this time in the show. And if you got the balls, Vince Russo, that you say you do, you will call into the show next week, and let's see you try to defend your position. Because I guarantee you have no legs to stand on when it comes to that statement, David Arquette being more over than Kevin Owens is. And you say you don't want to hear from wrestling fans? You know, you don't want to hear from guys like us? Then why do you put your opinions on the internet in the first place? If you don't want to hear what we have to say.
And he thinks, I've been in the Attitude Era. You know, I did all this, The Rock and the Stone Cold stuff. You know, all that stuff, bro. That's what he says, you know, and it sounds stupid. You know, Vince McMahon was your little,
Notebook.
Yeah, notebook. Not notebook, but like, pretty much, you're like the little kid that gives his mom or dad, you know, to check his homework. That's what Vince McMahon did for you, the Attitude Era. You know.
Then again, what's the point of tweeting you, Vince Russo? Because you even said it in your podcast, that you automatically block anybody who disagrees with you. Well,
Yeah.
tell you what, I disagree with you, and I'm calling you out on it.
Yeah. Come on at me, bro. That's how.
Well, anyway, guys and gals, we have just run out of time in here, and hopefully on next week's show, if Vince Russo has the balls, he might call in. But
Yeah, Jim Cornette.
more than likely, he probably won't.
Yeah,
So-
because he's afraid of Jim Cornette. You know.
So, with that being said, guys and gals, be sure you tune in every Thursday night right here at 9 p.m. Central Time on AOC and on YouTube. So, with that being said,
Oh, wait, give him a minute. I'm an idiot.
Ah.
well, anyway,
And then we zoom back in.
no!
Ah.
Well, again, if you have any comments, especially if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure you put them in the comment section below. Don't forget to slap a like on the video. And be sure you subscribe not only to WGS-TV, but this video is also going to go up on AOC's YouTube channel. So be sure you subscribe to the AOC YouTube channel as well. Yeah. So with that being said, for Nick Nay, because it makes all the ladies say...
Mayday.
Mayday.
I'm Mark the Smart, and this is Jim Cornette Jr.
Jim Cornette Jr. I'm Double B Bully Bridgeau saying we'll see you next week right here on AOC.